some of the best parts of fruits, Bethany, are the leaves, sometimes the bark and the roots, which have virtually zero sugar and are loaded with polyphenols. There is a way to get the nutrients and beneficial compounds from fruits without eating too much food sugar. But when you are in a battle, you need to be very, very careful with how much sugar you consume, how much fructose you consume, et cetera, et cetera.
Today we're talking about eating clay, intermittent fasting, types of yogurt to consume, and healing from Crohn's and cancer. I have Jordan Rubin on the show today. And prior to becoming New York Times bestselling author of The Maker's Diet, Jordan had one of the worst cases of Crohn's disease. They've never even seen anything like this before. And he rapidly lost 80 pounds. And after seeing 70 doctors, they did not expect him to live much longer. Jordan was wheelchair bound and wasting away at 104 pounds at 6 feet tall, experiencing excruciating digestive problems, candida overgrowth, prostate problems, pain, nausea, and all the other complications that come along with Crohn's. But he was determined to overcome. He studied hundreds of biblical references about living a healthy lifestyle, and he changed his diet to whole foods consumed in Bible times, like raw, organically grown whole grains, fruits, vegetables, and fermented dairy, grass-fed beef and poultry, bone broth, etc. And he also added a daily regimen of probiotics, teeming with beneficial bacteria in soil-based organisms. Jordan successfully gained 29 pounds in 40 days after following his own plan, and it was then he knew he was on the right track. At 180 pounds, he was free of all the digestive problems that had plagued him for years and ready to not only reclaim his life, but determined to help others similarly suffering. Jordan's story is not only inspiring to me, but I know many others. His story is also educational because he shares tips, tricks, and ultimately how he healed and how you can too and take those steps to a better life. This episode is fire until the very end, and I cannot wait for you guys to tune in. So without further ado, let's get right into the episode. And you already know this, but you're listening to the Digest This podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Cameron. Let's get right into it. Thank you so much, Jordan, for coming on the show today. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's great to be here.
Okay, so first of all, I like to start off my podcast with rapid fire yes or no questions. And so you can only answer yes or no. And there's only like maybe 5 or 6. So are you ready?
I'm ready. I'm laughing because whenever I listen to podcasts, the rapid fire questions usually take 5 minutes each. So I'm going to try my best to do this without caveats and conditions.
Okay, and then we can actually, later on too, we can go in and dive deeper into these questions in the interview. So, okay, so first question, can dead probiotics still help our gut?
Yes.
Is kale wrecking our gut health?
Potentially, yes.
Potentially, yes. Okay, we'll get into that. Does fruit sugar feed cancer? Or maybe the question should be, can fruit sugar feed cancer?
Yes.
Okay. Is yogurt a healing food?
Yes, depending on the dairy that it comes from. So you see, Bethany, I'm already like blowing it.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Great questions, but there's a little bit of a yes, but.
Okay.
Or no, but.
Okay. All right. And last question. Can eating clay help you in a gut flare-up?
Yes.
That's so interesting. Quick tip here. If you're trying to get in more animal protein, specifically red meat, but you cannot digest red meat or you just are having trouble. I've definitely experienced that myself, and it was really, really hard for me to get in enough red meat protein. So I actually started incorporating Equip Foods Prime Protein. It's their unflavored beef protein powder. And I know what you're thinking. It's like, wait, what the heck is beef protein powder? Well, it's different than bone broth powder. And it basically is like the same equivalent to a 4-ounce piece of grass-fed steak. It has 20 grams of protein, and the ingredients, it's just the unflavored one ingredient, and that's what I stick to. I add it to my smoothies. You can even add it to like your mac and cheese sauce, hot drinks. I have even added it to my coffee instead of the gelatin that I was previously using, and it froths your coffee like no other, and you're getting in tons of protein. So whether it's a smoothie, your coffee, or a guacamole dip, and you want to get in red meat and you want to digest it, definitely check out Prime Protein. And it's from the company Equip Foods. Again, I always get the unflavored because there's no sugar alternatives, no natural flavors. And I just think it's so versatile, and it's something everyone should incorporate in their diet. Another important thing is that it is grass-fed and it's tested for heavy metals, toxins, things like glyphosate. So they go the extra mile to make sure they're providing you with the cleanest source. It is definitely keto and paleo as well as carnivore. So if you're following any of those diets, or again, you just want to get more red meat into your personal diet plan, check out Equip Foods Prime Unflavored Protein. And if you go to equipfoods.com/digest and use code DIGEST, you'll get 20% off. That's 20% off Equip Foods Prime Protein. Just go to equipfoods.com/digest and use code DIGEST. CBD has been clinically shown to encourage balanced gut health and immune function and can help ease discomfort associated with digestive problems. In fact, a study in the NIH notes that one promising effect of internal CBD use is, and I quote, the activation of cannabinoid receptors in the gut, which not only suppresses many of the IBD-related symptoms, such as diarrhea and visceral hypersensitivity, but also inhibits the inflammatory reaction, end quote. Additional studies share that CBD can inhibit inflammation, aid in patients with IBD, modulate intestinal barrier functions, help decrease intestinal secretions, as well as help with headaches. So you may or may not know this, but I have certainly tried and tested my fair share of CBD products dating all the way back to 2017, long before CBD was even talked about. And it was one of the natural remedies my holistic doctor encouraged me to take while I was going through my severe gut issues. And till this day, I still keep CBD in my bag of tricks for gut health and to help keep inflammation at bay. So how do you choose the right CBD for gut health? Because, well, in this dynamic world of CBD, knowing which product and type to choose can be a little overwhelming. However, the form and spectrum of CBD can significantly influence its benefits, especially when it comes to digestive health. CB Distillery is a company I have grown to love for their full transparency, USA-grown hemp that is rigorously tested, and I just love that they display the most recent third-party tests on their website for anyone to view. They are not ashamed to share their results with nothing to hide. I personally recommend trying their distilled full spectrum CBD tincture, which contains just 2 simple ingredients: coconut MCT oil as the carrier and their full spectrum extract. That is it. CB Distillery also offers a 60-day money-back guarantee, which means you can use and try their CBD for a full 2 months. And if for whatever reason you're not satisfied, they will give you your money back. Guys, this is like a no-brainer. And on top of that, they offer my listeners a whopping 25% off your entire order. Just use code DIGEST at checkout to get 25% off and try it risk-free for 60 days. Go to thecbdistillery.com and use code DIGEST. That's THECBDISTILLERY.com and use code DIGEST. I'll also include that link in today's show notes so you can simply just go there with one easy tap. And speaking from experience, when your gut is inflamed, there's pretty much nothing you won't try. I hope you guys love it just as much as I do. Before we get into my burning questions, can you quickly share your story with my listeners and what life-threatening diseases you overcame?
Let me start by saying that sharing my story quickly is even harder than the yes and no questions you asked. But let me say this. I have been blessed to overcome Crohn's disease and 18 other illnesses at that time. And when I say 18 other illnesses, that's a lot. So let me be more specific. So what came with Crohn's disease involved parasitic, bacterial, viral, and fungal infections, which is not abnormal. In my case, I had severe cachexia or wasting disease, which saw me go from 185 pounds at 6 feet tall to 104 pounds in a wheelchair. I had all kinds of attenuating issues from diabetes to heart infection, so peri and myocarditis. I had prostatitis, urinary tract infections, liver issues. So the 18 illnesses all were in and around the breakdown of my body. So that was when I was 19 to 21, let's say that for lack of a better exact age range. And then in 2008, I was diagnosed with metastatic cancer and overcame that. So I know this is not the entire story, and there's so much, I would say, more drama to it, etc. But let me say this. When I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, I was a teenager. I thought that I was losing everything important to me, but what I ultimately gained was my purpose in life. I overcame that and other incurable illnesses through a biblically based diet and lifestyle that I would later call the Maker's Diet, combined with some unique probiotics, which led to me starting health and wellness companies, including Garden of Life, writing many books, starting with Patient Heal Thyself, which was my first. My disease was 2 years long. I went to 70 medical experts, and no one was able to help me conventionally or what you'd call integrative functional medicine, et cetera, until I met a man, number 70, who helped me find a way of eating and living that is found in the Bible, proven through history, and confirmed by science. When I got well, and I would say the switch flipped, it took only 40 days to go from really death to life. And if someone's interested, Bethany, they can do a search with my name, Jordan Rubin, and click images. You'll see a before picture, maybe an after picture. Now, I will warn you, there's another Jordan Rubin that writes horror films, and my kids call him the bad Jordan Rubin, and I'm pretty sure his kids call me the weird Jordan Rubin. So you can figure all that out. But you'll see, at my worst, I was blessed to have a little bit of faith, have my mom take my photograph. This was the days before digital photos, Photoshop. We're talking real photo with a negative, the whole shebang. That photo is the most important decision, or I would say profession of faith towards an action that I made, because I can tell you, Bethany, and the listeners, that I lost 80 some pounds. I can tell you that at my worst, my knees to my nail beds were blue, and my iron level was 0. I looked like a concentration camp victim or survivor, but showing you that picture truly is 1,000 words. So check out that photo. And in 40 days from there, I kind of went back to life. And then 40 more days, which was 12 weeks later, on my 21st birthday, there'll be an after photo somewhere online where I am in front of Crystal Pier in San Diego on Mission Beach. And what was interesting is the man who helped me get well, who is no longer with us, he told me that if I came to California to live with him and learn how to eat, I would be well by my 21st birthday. That hope that he infused was critical. So I know, and I don't want to quickly move on from that, but the cancer story is radical as well. And I want people to have a resource to find that information. So I was speaking at a church 10 years ago, 2014, and I shared the message. If you go to YouTube and type in "To Hell with Cancer," they recorded it, and that will give you my spiritual and emotional keys to overcoming cancer and other diseases. It was very dramatic. I don't want to not do it justice on this podcast, but suffice it to say that I was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor said that if I didn't follow conventional treatment, which would be chemotherapy and a very invasive surgery, that there was a 100% chance I'd be dead in 90 days. I didn't follow those treatments, and I was healed, I believe, miraculously, but through a process. And I also am very passionate about helping people overcome cancer. And I will write a book one day that will be entitled "To Hell with Cancer." It just hasn't happened yet. And there's been many people that I've been able to coach to become cancer conquerors as well. So those are two dramatic stories. Not only that, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I'd already written a book on naturally healing cancer. So it was a very unique cancer based on me not having a surgery at pretty much birth that I should have had. Long story there, but suffice it to say that I am not on any medications. I am healed, healthy, and whole, and I'm passionate to help heal the planet, feed the world, and eradicate disease. That's my personal mission statement.
Wow, Jordan. I mean, your story is literally super inspiring. And I love what you said about just having hope, with this doctor that you came across, the 70th one. And I think a lot of people need hope because that's what will continue to motivate them and really even try to get better. And I just think it's kind of ironic too, when you said in 40 days you saw a transformation. I mean, Jesus, he fasted for 40 days. And I know, and I love that you're not afraid to share your faith, and I love that. I think you and I share the same faith, and we're both Christians here. And I think you got a lot of your inspiration and guidance regarding nutrition from the Bible, and I think that's just super inspiring. And so I want you to share a little bit more about that. And again, I also have a question completely unrelated. I know I'm throwing a bunch of things at you, but what made you decide to not go the conventional route of cancer treatment?
Well, I have been studying and coaching people related to battling cancer. And so it was not really an option for me, even though it was presented, to do the conventional route, at least initially. But what I did say to my wife, because this particular oncologist used some choice language and said that you'll be dead in 90 days, 100% chance. And that's, to me, that's a testimony in the making. When you read cancer, I'll say outcomes or prognoses, 5% chance is horrible. Like, I don't want to do anything where there's a 5% chance I'm going to die. 95 is horrific, but I've never heard 100. And so to me, I just knew that God was going to do something great, because who says 100% chance of dying? Like, it's ridiculous. But I did promise my wife, I said, I'm going to do a 40-day program once again, but in this time it would be for overcoming cancer, body, mind, and spirit, and emotional. And if my cancer isn't gone, let me rephrase it. I never called it my cancer. If the diagnosis doesn't vastly improve or whatever is there gone, I will seek some other treatments. And at that point, I was looking for things like maybe a less invasive chemotherapy or a robotic surgery. And I would always say to myself, I'm not looking at it for me. This is for somebody else who's going to need it because I have been healed. I'm just waiting for that to manifest. I didn't realize you were a believer, Bethany, because of my lack of research coming in. I would have shared whatever I shared anyway. But since you are, I will say this, that the Bible says twice in Isaiah and in First Peter or Second Peter, I believe, by his stripes or by his wounds, you are healed. So my point is, I really leaned into my faith during this time. And even though I disconnected from work, which is so rare for me for even 1 hour, much less 40 days, I spent probably 12 to 14 hours a day in a healing environment, primarily spiritually and emotionally. I never owned the disease. I never referred to it as my cancer. And when people would talk to me about cancer, even though I was in this mode of battling it, I wouldn't even feel like it was me or it was mine. And I'll tell you, I learned some powerful lessons that cancer is primarily a spiritual disease, but I also want you to understand, I went at it with diet and I'll call it body therapies, incredibly diligently and disciplined. But I do believe cancer, among all diseases, is a spiritual disease. It wreaks havoc on your spirit and your emotions because of how scared and fearful people are, even the bravest of individuals, not only of the diagnosis, but every time you get a test or every time you get a scan. It is so hard. And I do coach people when I can. Yesterday, I spoke to a friend whose mother is battling cancer. The day before, I spoke to a friend whose father is battling cancer. So it comes in waves. But I do believe that if you are battling a disease and you call yourself a believer, you need to trust God and his word. And there's so many promises. I will live and not die, but proclaim the glory of God. And you have to rest on these. I did it both illnesses, even though my Crohn's disease diagnoses and battle was much more painful and I was much more debilitated during the cancer battle. I felt well, fairly well. And because of the therapies I undertook, which were building and healing to my body, I didn't have all the side effects that one would with conventional treatment. But I do want to say this, when I coach people, and it's only sort of friends and family because that's not what I do full time, I tell them what I did is not necessarily right for everybody. Some people need to follow the path of a conventional doctor or therapies. Some people go to a integrative or functional clinic, and some people want to fight it completely naturally. I would say it this way without being critical. Your level of faith and belief in the principles that you would be following should dictate what you do. And I'll give an example. I know nothing about automobiles. I pretty much do whatever the mechanic tells me, which is kind of dangerous, and even more so if it was the analogy for my health. But I am in no position to do anything to fix my own vehicle. Some people feel that same way with their health. They want someone else to make all the decisions and do everything. I would say it's the easy road, but chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery is anything but the easy road. But the point is, you're not in the driver's seat. Some people, like myself, felt very comfortable with everything that I'd learned and put into practice to go at it, not alone, but be the quarterback of my own healing. So I want everyone to know I'm not critical of whatever choice people make regarding their healing. I just want to have options. And often I will know if I'm willing or able to help coach somebody through a condition. For example, a friend of mine's daughter has been diagnosed with lupus, and I've connected her with a functional medicine clinic, but I am also helping support her on the side. So it depends on these circumstances.
If anyone listening right now suffers with acne or any kind of skin conditions, thyroid dysfunction, neurological problems, high blood pressure, or even TMJ, I hate to break it to you, but fluoride in your toothpaste could actually be the cause. Fluoride even contributes to acute high-level exposure. Fluoride has even been linked to abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, and even muscle spasms, which is really crazy, you guys. So I know everyone is looking for a fluoride-free toothpaste, and I've been using Bite toothpaste bits for, oh gosh, I would say like 2 years now, which is crazy. I love them. My husband loves them too. And they have a fluoride-free version, and they use hydroxyapatite, which is it's a non-toxic ingredient that I feel like is getting more attention now. So hydroxyapatite works by remineralizing enamel from within. It just reaches our innermost part of any kind of dental cavity, and it binds to plaque and harmful bacteria in our mouth. And hydroxyapatite is the active ingredient in Bite toothpaste bits fluoride-free toothpaste. I'm sure you guys have heard of Bite. I definitely recommend checking them out. They also have a natural tooth whitening kit as well. They also have a natural teeth whitening kit and mouthwash. So I am offering my listeners 20% off, or should I say Bite is, which I am so grateful for them and this partnership. And if you go to trybite.com/digest, you can get 20% off. You can also use the code DIGEST at checkout to get 20% off as well. So just go to trybite.com/digest or use code DIGEST at checkout. Trust me, you guys, you're gonna love this game-changing toothpaste. And if you don't, for whatever reason, you can cancel at any time. Again, just go to trybite.com/digest. Poor gut health has been linked to poor immunity, depression, anxiety, brain fog, low energy, skin issues, including acne, and studies are now coming out that our gut microbiome is linked to obesity and type 2 diabetes. And in the world we live in today, so many factors and environmental toxins can hinder our gut and are constantly trying to break down our microbiome. Now, it's not practical we go off grid and live away from society to avoid all these things. So it's important to combat them with a good probiotic and prebiotic to give our gut support and skin in the game to fight off infections and help us live our best life full of vitality, energy, clear skin, and regularity. But not all probiotics are created equal. In fact, many don't even make it to the grocery stores alive. So you just wasted your hard-earned money on something that is basically dead. That's why I trust Seed's DS-01 Daily Symbiotic Capsule. This is a prebiotic and probiotic in one. If you've ever seen me in my Instagram stories showing you what Seed's capsules actually look like, it's pretty cool. That's because it's a capsule within a capsule. So if you open up the first capsule, there's actually another capsule inside. Seed's Daily Symbiotic is a prebiotic and probiotic to support gut health that has completely revolutionized the daily supplement world, designed to make its way all the way through your stomach and survive your stomach acid, with studies even showing its 100% survivability rate. And I'm pretty sure we all know what probiotics are. They're the good bacteria we need inside our gut. But without the prebiotics, the probiotics will die. You see, because probiotics are also living organisms and they need food too. That's where the prebiotics come in. They help feed the probiotics, helping them to survive in our body, which is what we want. Sources of prebiotics include garlic, onions, leeks, asparagus, artichoke, oats, grains, and legumes. But for many people with digestive issues, all these foods are off limits because they can cause other issues. And if you follow a grain-free diet or paleo diet, then oats, legumes, beans, and other prebiotic-containing grains are off limits too. So to make sure you are getting the full benefit of taking probiotics as well as getting what you paid for, Seed's Daily Symbiotic is what I would recommend to all my friends and family. And if you're not sure if you want to take the plunge, Seed is offering my community a whopping 25% off your first order so you can try it and see if you like it. They will send you a super chic glass bottle filled with all the goods. Then they have an eco-friendly, sustainable biomaterial refill system delivered each month after that. And you can cancel anytime. So even after the first month, you can cancel if you feel like it's not for you. But let me tell you, if you are taking a probiotic anyways, why not switch to Seed and experience the array of benefits countless others, including myself, have? And if you're not already taking a probiotic or prebiotic, take this as your sign to take back your health now. Just go to seed.com/digest and use code 25digest to get 25% off your first order. Again, that's seed.com/digest and use code 25digest to get 25% off. Make sure it's all lowercase. I love that you talk about fear because so many people do have fear. And the Bible even says, the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear. And you explain it so well in the whole car analogy, is that it is very true that a lot of people just don't know what to do regarding their health. And you can still have faith that whatever route you're going to choose to heal, that God will continue to, he'll provide through that healing. Again, I don't want to go off track here, but I think you made some really good points there. Now, I want to go a little bit more into nutrition and talk about a few things. Now, we hear a lot and we hear a bad rap with fruit sugar. But I've noticed and I've seen a lot of people do juice cleanses when they were trying to beat cancer and ultimately did beat cancer, yet they were juicing fresh fruits and veggies daily. So can you kind of explain, wait, doesn't fruit sugar feed cancer? Why were they drinking fruit juices and all these things and they got healed?
I think this is a very nuanced discussion. And I want to be very clear that I very much subscribe to what I would say is a conscious omnivorous diet. I am not on a plant-based diet. I have been at times, as most of us in the health and wellness field have, and it does not work for me or for most people that I coach and support. There are times when it can make sense, and using juices as a supplement can be excellent. For example, yesterday I juiced lemons and limes pretty much with the rind and the skin to get some of the essential oils, etc. Now that's a no sugar or low sugar fruit. I also juiced apples for my kids to make dragon fruit or pitaya bowls with, because when you are young and you have a very fast metabolism, that can be fine. I think the challenge, Bethany, is this, and I'm a farmer as well, so I can answer this in that regard. The challenge with fruit is that it is much different today in its sugar content than it was in the past. And any fruit is available anytime, which completely throws the seasonal eating out the window. And I'll give you an example. When we grow fruit trees on our farms, the normal way to do it, conventional wisdom would say you plant something called rootstock. So say it's an apple, and the rootstock is an old school, strong apple, perhaps the progenitor, the ancestors of our modern delicious Honeycrisp. And I say delicious because I love Honeycrisp. The rootstock is strong and is very resistant to pestilence. But then, because the rootstock of the common apple or a crab apple produces something that's sour and not sweet with a very thick skin, which is what our ancestors would have eaten, they graft on an improved variety of Honeycrisp, which has way more sugar, a thinner skin, it's more crispy, yada, yada, yada. So the reason I say this is nuanced, Bethany, is that I don't believe that consuming lots of fruit when you're dealing with cancer is wise, but it also happens to be critical the type of fruit you consume. And it even gets into things like hybridized fruits with no seeds. So let me give an example. A blackberry, even an improved blackberry, has lower sugar, higher antioxidants, and more fiber than, say, a jumbo blueberry. Do you ever see those jumbo blueberries, which taste like heaven? You know what I'm talking about? But then there's the wild or the Maine blueberries, which are really small and have a lot more skin and taste a little more bitter. Those are more similar, the Maine or wild blueberries, to what we would have had as our ancestors. So I will tell you this: if you are battling cancer and you're not on a ketogenic diet, which some people choose to follow, I do think consuming low sugar, higher fiber fruits like berries can be fine. Grapefruit, certainly lemons and limes, but clearly, and as someone who loves fruit, I don't know that eating multiple mangoes, pineapples, and bananas a day are ideal. And during my cancer journey, I had a fruit smoothie every day with raw dairy, particular type of raw dairy. In my case, it was raw sheep milk yogurt, which is not easy to find, but mine was strictly berries. It was dark colored berries, purple, blue, and I would consume the highest antioxidant versions, but it was also with high fat or raw dairy that was A2, which is sheep milk, and I would consume raw unheated honey and some pasture-raised egg yolks with it, just to be clear. So I do not believe for the average person that following a high sugar diet for cancer is ideal. However, there are people that have said they followed the grape diet or the grape cure. There are people that I know and trust or have known that have had prostate cancer and juiced exclusively carrots, which has very high sugar. So I'm not here to tell you that I know this unequivocally, but I will say for the average person, a high sugar dietary intake when battling cancer is not ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also think too that a lot of fruits that are available are just kind of the very generic, like you don't really see black currants available. So I think that people maybe just opt for the apple, the orange, the pineapple that are just the quote widely available fruits than looking for maybe some really specific, hard to find exotic fruits that could be more beneficial.
Oh yeah, well, there are fruits such as Indian gooseberry or amla, which are barely sweet at all. That is one of the three fruits that make up triphala, which is sort of an Ayurvedic bowel conditioner, but also helps with longevity and is loaded with polyphenols. In fact, some of the best parts of fruits, Bethany, are the leaves, sometimes the bark and the roots, which have virtually zero sugar and are loaded with polyphenols. So I do think there is a way to get the nutrients and beneficial compounds from fruits without eating too much fruit sugar. But I got to tell you, I love fruit. When I taste a navel orange that is ripe, it literally makes me know that there is a God, because that is one of my favorite things on the planet. I love fruit. But when you are in a battle, you need to be very, very careful with how much sugar you consume, how much fructose you consume, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that you make a good point. It all depends. Fruit isn't bad, but it just depends in what state of health are you in. It could be bad in that season of your life. Now, going back to your healing with Crohn's disease, because I know a lot of people want to know, how did you do it? What was the protocol that you followed? Because a lot of people with digestive issues, they really can't digest any type of vegetables. It just wrecks their gut. So can you kind of give us a lowdown and a synopsis of what the protocol was and how you really got back on track?
Absolutely. So Bethany, I'm not trying to punt this question, but I do want to mention that myself, Dr. Josh Axe, and Dr. Joe Brasco recently published a book called The Probiotic Diet, which is, I think, very instructive on fighting digestive problems, as is my Maker's Diet book, which is also widely available. I would say this in general: the first phase of healing from a gut issue, and this could be inflammatory bowel disease such as Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. It could be celiac disease, diverticulitis. It could be irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Could be chronic constipation or diarrhea, etc. I always like phase one to eliminate allergens, starve bad germs, and repair the gut. So I usually recommend some variation of a bone broth cleanse. If someone's real sensitive, there's no veggies in there at all, no herbs and spices, even though for some herbs and spices work great. If you consume more of like a chicken soup, the vegetables should be uber well cooked. But I would recommend consuming a broth or soup diet only for a period of time. And when I say soup, it is always with bones, whether it's beef, chicken, or fish. A lot of times, consuming a poultry broth is better, and it has more gut healing compounds than a meat broth. And then I usually have people go into a diet that is low inflammatory, helpful for insulin, and low allergen. So for example, the only dairy I recommend is fermented, and it's A2 dairy, so it'd be from goats or sheep or particularly labeled dairy. Same with cheeses. You're consuming a lot of high quality animal foods like meat, fish, poultry, and eggs. I would be very careful on fruits and only consume, again, those low sugar fruits. Although I will say this, people with bowel disease or disorders often do very well with mango and blueberries, and that would include dried mango as well. Now, dried mango is not great on the teeth, but there are compounds in mango that are very beneficial for inflammatory bowel disease, and blueberries. So blueberries acts on the bowel the way that cranberries act on the urinary tract, really helps to balance the gut. Berries are amazing for so many things. I would say that's a very solid recommendation for cancer and for bowel issues. But again, try to consume the higher antioxidant, lower sugar varieties of fruits, and those can be difficult to find. So from vegetable perspective, I agree with you, Bethany. I think raw vegetable juices can be too aggressive for gut issues, and even raw vegetables can. Now, I will tell you, I love salad so much. Part of what I love is the crunch. Part of what I love is the dressing. And I love to put nuts and seeds and, flax crackers. But at the end of the day, I can't tell you that when I eat a big salad, even with avocado, which I love, by the way, avocado is a great food for gut issues too. Avocado and cheese, all of that I love on a salad. I can't tell you I walk away from that salad feeling great. I think huge salads can be very difficult to digest because the human body does not create the enzymes necessary to break down plant fiber. So when you're consuming plant fiber in raw form, it's very difficult to digest, if not impossible. When you ultra heat it, think about cooking in a broth, a lot of the fiber is broken down. Then when you juice, the fiber is broken down. But again, green juices in particular, I've seen most people with inflammatory bowel disease or IBS have an issue. It'll cause more challenges for them. But I have a good friend who says he was cured of ulcerative colitis with raw juices. So there's always the exception. But for me and for the thousands I've talked to, I would be cooking my vegetables significantly. And I didn't mention this, but I should. I would avoid grains initially, even though I think there are very healthful forms of grains for most people. I would avoid fluid dairy with lactose. I would avoid sugar, meaning table sugar. I would avoid maple syrup. The carbohydrates you would refer to as disaccharides, which are primarily found in starchy vegetables like potatoes and corn, which is corn's barely a vegetable, grains, table sugar, and fluid dairy. So think about your carbohydrates coming from well-cooked vegetables, the right fruits, some nuts and seeds, but those can be tough as well. Particularly, I would avoid the legume nuts. I call them nuts, but they're really legumes, like cashews and peanuts, etc. So think of it as a low allergen, lower carbohydrate, and very high in nutrients and fats type of diet.
Okay, what's your opinion on sprouts? Are they better than the full-grown plant?
This is going to depend on which sprout you're referring to. I think sprouts can be excellent If you're dealing with IBD or IBS, maybe not as much, but sprouts do have a lot of nutrition. It depends on which sprout and how much. You can overdo it with, for example, broccoli sprouts. The same reason I said kale may not be good for your gut. Some of these very, very bitter greens can be aggressive for your gut. And I would say some sprouts are similar, but sprouts and even better microgreens are a great source of nutrition if you're eating raw vegetables. You can literally consume a micro onion sprout and it tastes like you're eating a whole onion. It's awesome. Again, it's awesome if you can tolerate onion.
Right, right. Now, I want to go back to the rapid fire questions because I did ask you if dead probiotics can still help our gut. And I know a lot of people may be wondering, okay, well, what's the deal with that? So I feel like a lot of people do know now what probiotics are, but I want to dig into prebiotics because at least for me with my gut issues here and a lot in the past, hickory root fiber, inulin, they just wreck my gut. And I see it a lot now in quote, probiotic protein bars and, you know, all these like protein powders. And I'm like, hickory root, it's like bloat heaven.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call it heaven. So let me back up and say this.
That's true.
Yeah, dead probiotics can be amazing, but believe it or not, Bethany, it's the way they die that makes them amazing. Let me give you an analogy. If you are going to slaughter an animal, and I know this, some people get offended. They don't like the idea that an animal has to die for you to eat. I will argue that something has to die for you to eat, whether it's a plant or an animal. But when you are harvesting or processing an animal, you want it to be at its peak level of health. In the Bible, they called it the fatted calf. That meant like the best, healthiest bull calf. So when you eat that animal, it's going to be very good for you and nutritious. If you wait for a cow to wither away and die at age 17, you're not going to have a healthy animal. You're not going to get a lot of meat, etc. So if you take a probiotic that is weak and it just dies on its own, it's not going to be healthful. There is a type of biotic called a parabiotic, which many people confuse with a postbiotic. Parabiotic's a dead probiotic, but it is dead because it is killed on purpose, usually through heat, that allows it to be at its peak of growth and create all of these weapons. I want everyone to understand, probiotics are only as good as the weapons they create to fight bad guys. Probiotics are policemen, they're Navy SEALs, they're armed forces. They create health through their weapons. So a para or postbiotic works best if it is purposely extinguished or killed. And when we talk about using postbiotics or parabiotics, those are the kind that have been studied in research. Now, unlike postbiotics and parabiotics, which work primarily on the immune system for parabiotics and for postbiotics, they literally have these compounds that can keep bad germs, that would be yeast, parasites, fungi, bacteria, at bay. Essentially, a postbiotic has antibiotic properties in it. It could extend food, organic acids, metabolites, something called bacteriocins. They're amazing. And I'm studying more and more about them. I've always said, if you listen to me 25 years ago, probiotics are great, but what they create, their weapons are even better. Postbiotics are the weapons of probiotics. Now, prebiotics, whole different story. I couldn't agree with you more that chicory root containing fructooligosaccharides or inulin are a bad idea for most people with gut issues. And it's hard because very many health experts that I respect, I'll give an example, Dr. Stephen Gundry, who has some great information, he loves prebiotics. I have found them to be very painful for people that have gut issues. So what you said, Bethany, I couldn't agree with more. Traditional prebiotics, they're cheap, they're indigestible, and they are a gas bomb. Now, can you get used to them? Eventually, yes. But you could get prebiotic benefits much more efficiently from consuming foods like the aforementioned mango or blueberry. Believe it or not, The best prebiotics I know of are actually polyphenols. They're not fermentable fibers, because these polyphenols, especially if you can tolerate and utilize them, can be amazing for you, and they don't have the same issues as the indigestible fibrous compounds like FOS or sources of it, inulin, chicory root, Jerusalem artichoke. There's many of those.
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And you often see even like probiotic sodas, and they have the FOS or inulin or chicory root. And I get so many people, even on Instagram, myself included, they're like, what's the deal? I'm cramping. I'm not just bloated, but my stomach is cramping so bad. I believe green bananas are also a good prebiotic. I don't know what your opinion on that is, but even onions, I've heard, are great prebiotics.
Yes, you're referring to plants that contain resistant starches. So there's green bananas, potato starch, etc. I have mixed feelings about unripe fruit. I think whether it's green mangoes, green tomatoes, or green bananas, there are some benefits. There's oftentimes a starch that can help folks with their gut, but I would say, Bethany, I would put resistant starch in a similar category to FOS. I think there are more people than not with severe gut issues that would not tolerate them well. Now, a ripe banana has mostly sugars, and believe it or not, for someone with gut issues, simple sugars, let me rephrase that. I don't like the term simple or complex because I think it's not scientifically correct. Monosaccharide-rich foods like honey, like cultured dairy products, the right ones, and fruits and vegetables are largely tolerated in the right quantities by people with gut issues. But when you get into starches in general, whether resistant or the indigestible oligosaccharides, that's an issue. And that's why, Bethany, some people follow a FODMAPs or an anti-FODMAPs diet because of those fermentable oligosaccharides that are part of it. I think resistant starches and FOS type prebiotics are more harm than good for people with gut issues.
Okay. And I did ask you too at the beginning about yogurt as a healing food. And you did say that a trigger food was liquid dairy, which I love that term, liquid dairy, because liquid typically means it's not fermented. It's just like milk, right? But yogurt is fermented, and kefir as well. So I would maybe say that's a looser dairy. But can you just kind of elaborate on that and why it's so different than just milk?
Absolutely. So let me say this. Yogurt, properly prepared and fermented for the right amount of time, and a lot of times you look for something like a Bulgarian yogurt or a yogurt that's free of thickeners, because if you add thickeners to your yogurt, it's probably because you're not fermenting long enough. I'll give a couple of my favorite brands that you can find at your local health food store. First of all, yogurt's more, I would say, easily tolerated than kefir. Kefir, particularly if it's fermented for a very long time and it kind of smells like a little bit of ammonia, et cetera, can be aggressive for people with gut issues, similarly to kombucha. I love kombucha. It tastes great, but with serious gut issues, you got to be careful about kombucha and maybe even kefir, depending on how it's produced. Any cultured dairy, yogurt or kefir or otherwise, should come from A2 animals. We're talking about sheep, goats, water buffalo, or particularly mentioned A2 dairy, which now you can even find at Costco, believe it or not. Not the yogurt or kefir, but you can find dairy. One of my favorite types of dairy that you can buy at the store that is very tolerable and absolutely nutritious for so many is sheep milk yogurt. Sheep milk yogurt has more nutrients, it's thicker, higher in protein, and better for so many things than other yogurts, including goat, and it's tastier than goat. Goat can be a little gamey or goaty, as we used to call it. The two brands I like that you can buy in most health food groceries would be Old Chatham sheep herders. It's green with a black sheep, someone should tell them black sheep isn't necessarily a sign of something good. And the other would be Bellwether Farms. I forgot it for a moment. Both of those are free of any additives. Now, I'll warn you, neither of them are organic because there is no organic sheep yogurt on the market right now, but both of those are good. A lot of times I will get dairy from one of my farms, or I'll order from a Amish farm somewhere in the country. And a lot of times you have to join a club, a herd share, or say it's for your pets. I hate that, but that's how life is here in the big city. But sheep milk yogurt is very, very tolerable for many people, not just those that have gut issues. It gives you probiotics and postbiotics. That's the sour taste, that's lactic acid that's created, as well as some other byproducts. So it's amazing. That is a very good food. Probably not the first thing I would consume if you're in an active flare-up of inflammatory bowel disease or are having issues with IBS, diverticulitis, etc. But that's a great nourishing food for you and your family.
Okay, that's great. And well, speaking of a flare up, and if you are in one, are there any benefits to eating clay in a flare up?
Yes, eating is probably a strong word because you're going to drink it. There are benefits of consuming clay every day, but particularly when you're in a flare up. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that clay, ab with a B, sorbs toxins, and add, AD, sorbs toxins. It swells in your gut, but unlike psyllium and fiber, it doesn't bloat you, and it helps move things out of the system. That is something I recommend for people, whether they have gut issues or not. I have friends that have a bad case of what you would call humorously Montezuma's revenge. Think of going out of the country or just having a 24-hour virus or bacterial infection, and I'll recommend consuming clay. I'll also recommend a humic or fulvic acid mineral complex. Could be a mineral blend, or it could be shilajit, which is an Ayurvedic sort of postbiotic rich mineral compound that comes from mountains and almost volcanoes. Shilajit, by the way, is spelled Shilajit, in case you're wondering. And that works somewhat similar to a clay in helping remove toxins from the body, but clay can be very beneficial in a world that is full of toxins, whether you have gut issues or not. If you're tending to be constipated, clay is not maybe as ideal, but if you have loose bowels or diarrhea, clay can be real helpful.
Interesting. And what should people look for when they're looking for a clay to consume, and how would they even do that?
Yeah, I hate to keep saying this because it's somewhat similar to finding raw dairy products and ordering through the mail. Almost every clay says not for human consumption because there are heavy metals, but I do not believe those metals are absorbed. I think they're part of the structure. It's like if you were to use a sponge to clean up a liquid mess on your sink, you're going to absorb the liquid with the sponge. You're not going to have the sponge end up on your kitchen sink or counter. So clay does not let go of the minerals. It absorbs other things. But that being said, there is a couple of brands. One of them is a liquid clay, and it's called Sony's number 9, SONNE''S number 9. It was developed by someone named Victor, or V.E. Irons, not Vic, his name is Victor, but V.E. Irons, and he was the first to use psyllium and bentonite clay for bowel health. But you can get a liquid bentonite or Sony's number 9 detoxificant online or at some stores, and you can use, I usually recommend 2 tablespoons. It's fairly tasteless, mixed in water, up to 4 times a day if you want to curb diarrhea. Think of it this way: when you have those conditions, there are medicines out there like kaopectate, is a combination of kaolin clay and pectin from fruit. That's another reason why blueberries work well for your bowels, because they contain pectin, which is a fiber that helps absorb things.
Wow, so interesting. Yeah. So if anyone is listening, I'm sure they can do a little bit more research on their own and kind of dig into that if that does perk their interest. Now, the Bible often talks about fasting. So, what's your opinion on fasting for health as well as any spiritual benefits?
Let's start with spiritual. Game changer, if you will lean into it. Health, game changer. I have been practicing intermittent fasting for 27 years before it was called intermittent fasting. And I feel in my own life that the more narrow the eating window, the better. And if you're dealing with gut issues, some people with gut issues don't even have an appetite, and everything makes them feel sick. Now, they might crave things, but if you will eat, here's what I'll tell you. If someone has a serious or even moderate bowel issue, if you will eat the same food within 4, 6, or even 8 hours that you would over 16 hours, you will digest it better because you're giving your body time to rest, ramp up your digestive enzymes, etc. Intermittent fasting or time restricted eating is very beneficial for those with gut issues, and really everybody, but particularly those with gut issues. And if you're in a flare, you should, in my mind, practice intermittent fasting, consume the clay and some water during your fasting window. And then when you eat as much as you're comfortable eating, but do it in a shorter window. I really think you're going to be much better off, even if it's broth or like a one pot meal, like a bone broth or chicken soup or beef or fish, where you've got some vegetables and herbs and spices. That is really critical. Eating constantly, particularly foods that are beyond your ability to digest, which is almost everything when you're in a flare up, it's a big challenge. And some people, Bethany, with IBD are very underweight and they're afraid to practice intermittent fasting. But I still believe that you're better off digesting more of what you eat and resting your gut for a larger period of time than you would be eating all day long, even if it's the right foods.
Yeah, those are some great tips. I personally can feel a difference just in the clarity of my mind when I intermittent fast. And I have more energy, which is weird because a lot of people are like, well, you're low energy. Oh, I should probably eat because, I just don't have enough energy. But for me, it's like the opposite. I just like thrive. All that said, though, I think those are some really good tips. Just for time's sake, I do want to ask you one more thing. Where can people find you? Where's your social media? If they want to connect, all that good stuff.
Yes, I am, believe it or not, deficient in social media. My companies are not. So ancientnutrition.com, all of the Ancient Nutrition socials. And if you search my name, I've done a lot of videos, including how to beat Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis on the Dr. Axe or Ancient Nutrition YouTube channel. But searching for me, you'll find videos from television programs I've done. There's some podcast interviews I've done. We're going to ramp up social media more, but I have spent the last several years really pouring into research and supporting Dr. Josh Axe, my partner, not in crime, but my partner in healing. And but we are getting ready to do some really amazing things to ramp that up. We've got regenerative farms that you can check out. So many cool things, but you'll find me widely on social, just not on my own handles, if you will.
Yeah, no.
Also, as I mentioned, the probiotic diet is a relatively new book that I think would make a big impact on your gut health.
Yeah, well, and you've authored several books, The Maker's Diet being one of them, and I can't wait for you to come out with the one To Hell with Cancer.
Yes, that'll be a little ways out, but Josh and I have an amazing new book coming out in the fall of 2025. We'll have to talk about closer to the time. It is going to be groundbreaking, I will say. I'll say with no humility whatsoever. It's funny, Bethany, I have a new saying because we use certain cliches, euphemisms. We say something like, no offense, you're stupid, which you should never say no offense and then offend somebody. Just like we say with all humility, this is going to be the greatest thing ever. The truth is, with zero humility, I'm super excited about our book that's going to be amazing in 2025. So if you got anything from this podcast, stop saying contradictory things like, no offense, you're terrible and your big kid's ugly, or with all humility, I'm the greatest in the world. So those are just that's I'm teasing just a little bit. I know this was a serious podcast, but I am really excited about these future projects, and we have so much information to share on our drax.com website, intonutrition.com, YouTube channels, Instagram, you name it. So we're there for you. We can help you, and that's why we do what we do.
Awesome. Well, Jordan, you're always welcome back, and we're going to have you back when your book comes out for sure. So thank you again for all the wisdom that you provided.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me, and great to get to know you a little bit.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Digest This. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review in your podcast app to let us know. If you're ever wondering how you can support me and this podcast, sharing it with your friends and family is the best way. This is a Resonant Media production produced by Drake Peterson and edited by Mike Fry. To email the show, message us at digestthispod@gmail.com. See you next time. The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical and mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or health team first.